Hey, Bowie Manning here. Welcome to a pregame edition of the Garden Report live at the American Airlines Center here in Dallas. Noah Dalzell alongside as we prepare to preview Game 3, just about 2.5 hours from now. And we're all waiting whether or not Kristaps Porzingis will play in this game. From our view, didn't look like he practiced yesterday, wasn't on the floor when the Celtics started shooting around here in the building. Unclear. Joe Mazzulla said yesterday whether Porzingis will go or not. But as we talked about yesterday, the decision's out of his hands. Boston's medical staff could rule him out for this game. And at this point, based on everything I've read, based on his health and how he looked in that second half, and just how limited this injury might leave him, despite how much he said he'll try to play, he'll fight to play, and Joe gave him the chance to as well, I don't think we'll see Kristaps Porzingis out here for this one. How are you feeling a day later?
I think he's going to play, but I don't have any real scientific backing to why that is. Something about the way he's carried himself since this injury was announced, just his general energy and the media availability. He did a sit-down with NBA TV saying he intends on trying to play. I think he's going to give it a shot. I don't know how it's going to go. I could see him coming in for a few minutes and he's not productive, but I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't even suit up, like he's out from the jump.
It'll be interesting. So he's officially questionable. There's a chance you could make him active and just have him available in case you need him, or on a limited basis, or just see how he does in that first rotation and take it from there. Again, this is a tough injury to assess how he's going to look, how it's going to impact him. It does appear you can play through it, but there might be pain, there might be limited jumping ability, and there might be limited lateral movement with this. And as the description went, it's a displacement of that tendon, which obviously could be very painful,
right,
but also seems like it could sway throughout the game. Like if it pops out of place or moves again, I don't know any of this stuff. It's just tough for me to imagine him playing. And we talked about it when he originally came back. If he goes out there in his first rotation and doesn't look like he can move, they have to sit him down right away, and he ends up with 5 ineffective minutes in this game and he's done, that can have a real deflating effect, especially on the road.
Yeah, I think this team and he himself are going to be very resilient regardless of what happens here. We talked about this a week ago. We said, is he going to be good to go for game 1? And I said the last thing you want is he comes in, tries to play, doesn't work out, he gets hurt, he's out, everybody's like flustered by it. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, he gave them obviously those 2 games, but this experiment of him coming back for the finals after 6 weeks, like ultimately maybe didn't work. Like we'll see, but it's a possibility that he wasn't ready to come back. And again, I know the injuries are unrelated, but he was already on a minutes restriction before this new injury, right? So we were already seeing a limited version of him. I don't think the morale standpoint here is going to be a problem. He talked about it, that he's mentally like doing good right now. Derek White mentioned it yesterday, said, the thing about Porzingis is he's always smiling, he's always happy. So I think they're going to give it a shot, but everybody recognizes this is like they're used to being in this position without him. This is not anything new, and it's a next man up mentality. Jaylen Brown said it yesterday, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gave them a few minutes and it didn't work out and they didn't miss a beat.
Well, we are brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the perfect time right now as we record this to go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, see what everybody's predicted to score point-wise, assist totals, also on their rebounds, all the stats possible for you to pick and combine multiple players, even multiple players from different leagues. I'm sure there's some baseball going on tonight. If that's how you're feeling, all you got to do on Prize Picks is go select 2 or more players, hit more or less on their projections, and if you win, you can win many times your money over there. And if you use the code CLNS, you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's Prize Picks. More or less on those projections. It's that easy. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Let's keep it moving here with Porzingis. If he's able to go, it's obviously going to be a pretty similar plan, I'd imagine, to what they've been doing already. He was going about 20, 25 minutes in that bench spot. Have to think he'd be off the bench again in this game, probably in an even more reduced minutes load. So whether he plays, whether he doesn't, you're going to have some lineups here where there'll certainly be more of Horford, and which is fine because he's had a couple of days off here. Feels like he's in a good place to prepare for this moment. But like we talked about the other day, they're +0 with Porzingis off the floor in this series. A 104 offensive rating, which isn't very good. Defensive rating's fine at 104. But your offense is hurt by him not being out there, stretching out those bigs, keeping them out of the paint. The biggest problem in particular with going to Luke Kornet and Xavier Tillman at this point is not necessarily the defensive aspect, which they'll certainly be tested defensively if they're out there. I think there's a better ability for Dallas's bigs to ignore those guys, play off them, make it even more difficult for Tatum and others to get into the lane. And Derek Jones said yesterday they want to do that for everybody, not just Tatum, with ball handlers. So that's just central to what Dallas is going to do, and it looks like they're going to continue to do that again here tonight. And it becomes even more difficult to space the floor without Porzingis, who was legitimately pulling those guys out to half court. So if there's no Porzingis at all, which is of course possible here, you're talking 10, 15 minutes of either Tillman or Kornet, or going super small, and that has its own issues with the rebounding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would lean we're more likely to see Kornet tonight. I feel like in moments of like real crunch time, that's the direction that Joe has taken. He just seems to have more trust in him. I don't know if it's going to be 15 minutes. Like maybe it's 8 minutes. Like I think they're going to really try to run the starters tonight as much as they can. And this is a Celtics team that has leaned on the side of like guys have gotten days off. You know, for a lot of the season, they had the first seed locked up. People were getting rest days. They were playing, 32 minutes a night when they could, things like that. Now it's crunch time. It's game 3 of the finals. You can go up 3-0 against the Mavericks tonight. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see like Tatum, Brown, White, Holiday practically playing the whole game, and then Horford playing much more than we've seen in the series, and then just a little bit of extra minutes for Pritchard to grab some, a little bit of Kornet. Like I think they're going to really play it tight tonight, though.
That makes sense too, because if you can pull this one out tonight, and you're going to get Dallas's best punch. Dallas favorited tonight, which is pretty shocking, but telling maybe of where Porzingis is and where Dallas could be at home going into this game with the desperation. You're going to get their best shot without a doubt. And they've gotten some teams' best shots on this run, on this win streak now. It's amazing that they haven't lost since the Cleveland series.
That's crazy.
You have handled all those shots. And even in this series, Dallas goes on that third quarter run, 7-0. Pritchard hits his shot. They go on that run to close the fourth, almost tie the game. They get that block. So they've handled it already. And like we've talked about throughout this series, you've gotten a great Luka game in game 2. You've gotten a horrible Celtics shooting game in game 2. All these different breaks that you could imagine if you're Dallas going your way at this point. Tatum scoring performances to this point. I guess the only thing that could flip is Kyrie's scoring, and that's going to be the biggest thing to watch. He was out here pretty early tonight. Looked like he was getting those flip shots, layups, all the usual acrobatic stuff he's doing out there pregame. But I noticed like a little bit of tension with him. It feels like he's been tense this series. Might just go beyond the environment at this point just because of his struggles, and he's been struggling immensely. So it comes down to him essentially tonight. Can he get it going? Can he start to produce, not just as a scorer in tandem with Luka, but start to take advantage of that little bit of extra pressure you saw the Celtics start to throw at him and Luka in game 2, because they started to get a little bit more aggressive with their schemes in that game, and that should open up other guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kyrie's definitely one of the biggest X factors tonight, but I would say above him are the Dallas role players, because you have gotten nothing out of them. I mean, as little as you can, and not just that they're missing shots. I mean, they're way off. They looked so rattled in Boston. They did not look like they'd had any finals experience, and obviously they don't. But if you get that group of guys that has been instrumental to them getting to this point, if you get them, here in Dallas playing in front of their home crowd, back to kind of the version of them that was so effective in previous series, like that's going to make all the difference ultimately. So that's what stands out to me is, Luke, I think we're going to get a good night out of him. He's been pretty consistent. Even game 1, he wasn't facilitating as much, but he got his 30, right? The X factors to me is everybody else, and you're going to need more out of them if you're Dallas, and you're going to have any chance of beating the Celtics tonight.
We're brought to you by Game Time as well. Go over to Game Time app, see what's available tonight. I haven't gotten a look. Have you? You're usually scoping out Game Time.
No, but I wonder if the ticket prices are going down here in Dallas given the 0-2 deficit. I feel like people around the town have just not been super optimistic about this team, so could be a good opportunity if you're a Celtics fan in Dallas.
There's still a little bit of hope tonight. We'll get into that in a second, but 0-3 is where I'm looking. That's when I think they jump ship, and there'll be plenty of opportunity if you're in Texas, if you're somewhere within driving distance, to come and steal a deal. And that's what you're going to get on Game Time, especially this time, right leading up to Game Time, even a little bit after the game starts. If you're in Dallas, you might be able to grab something here and see potentially on Friday the Celtics win a championship here if they are able to win tonight. So go to Game Time, use code CLNS, get $20 off your first purchase over there. Of course, terms apply. Go get the Game Time app and use our code CLNS. So let's say Porzingis, who should be coming in the door shortly. I don't know if we'll get some video from our guy Rich down there, or whatever he's looking at. We already saw him walk out of practice yesterday. We saw him walk out of the shoot-around this morning that the Celtics held. We weren't at the shoot-around. Of course, wasn't open. So we didn't get to see if he actually participated. But
he was in basketball clothes.
He's in basketball clothes. He's wearing some sort of stuff on the left leg around the ankle area, which is, of course, where he's going to need that heavy support. I did read that he could maybe play with that kind of brace and taping and just something to hold it in place. I know the comparison that keeps getting made is the Kurt Schilling injury, in 2004, where he was pitching and the blood was just pouring out. So does he have that kind of bloody sock game? I guess it's possible here tonight. But I also think it's possible that we just don't see him again at this point, especially with it being an injury that requires surgery. I don't know what the long-term risk would be to playing on it, but that's always something you have to take into account, especially since a good friend of the show, Doc Flynn, was tweeting that you already had this right leg injury.
Yeah.
You already had the left leg injury, which could have been caused by overcompensating, playing through that. Those are certain things that could pop up from playing on a soleus strain like he was coming back from it in the timeline he did there. So if you're playing on both of those, it just doesn't seem like a recipe for his long-term health there, no matter how you slice it, no matter what the risk is. So in my mind, I think we might have seen the end of him. They're holding out hope. He's questionable. He's not out. So I know you're hopeful he's going to play.
I have a feeling he's going to surprise us positively.
Yeah.
It's just a gut feeling. We'll see.
That points toward that being a possibility here. But if he is out for the series, how much trouble are the Celtics in? How much of an opportunity is that for Dallas at this point against 40 minutes a night, Horford, whatever they can sprinkle in from the other bigs? Like, is this a series again if Porzingis is out?
I mean, we'll know in a few hours, right? We'll know how they look without him, but I think they got this done with or without him. I felt that way from the beginning, and now you're up 2-0, so I feel even more confident in their chances, but they have enough without him. And I think Tatum has played a really big role in helping to disrupt the lobs and guard the bigs, and so it's not like it's been just Porzingis on the defensive end. He's been great. He's been a positive surprise. And offensively, he has been a release valve for the Celtics, but I think they can step it up a notch. And so maybe what you lose with him being out, you gain with Tatum finding his rhythm tonight, right? So their margin of error is a little bit smaller, but I still think they get this done. Maybe it costs them a game. Instead of doing it in 5, they do it in 6. I don't know. Certainly you want him out there. He's going to maximize your chances, but this is not a blow that I'm like, they're not going to be able to recover from this. Also, from a mental standpoint, I think they've just been viewing him as a bonus for a while now. Like they've made this whole run without him, ultimately. Yeah, and it was a big part of my prediction. I felt like if you were getting a limited Porzingis, it was a 6-game series. If you were getting him at his best, 5, and it looked like it could have been on its way to 4 the way he started the series. So it has swung on his availability. We talked about the plus-minus. We saw him in Game 1 look like vintage Porzingis, and that led to the blowout. And then Game 2 a little more limited, and it went down the wire there. So it's definitely an opportunity for Dallas to start competing in every game. A lot of it's going to come down to what the Mavs do themselves, though. And Luka, it's been a mixed bag. The defense is horrible in Game 2. He's hurt The
as well.
lowlights coming out of Game 2 defensively for Luka has been wild to watch.
It has been, and those are all problems independent of Porzingis for Dallas. It's a bad matchup for them. Celtics hunt guys like that so methodically, and they've been so good at doing it all throughout. And you see them just manipulating the way Dallas helps, too. The Holiday effect was massive in Game 2. And if Dallas is going to continue to guard Boston the whole way, I remember we talked about it. Are they going to start to give Tatum a little bit more single coverage? They didn't. They just did exactly what they did in the first game again, and it led to even more Tatum passing, even more Tatum assists. So if they go out and do that again tonight, you probably, if you're Tatum and Brown, have a good feel for the way they're guarding you already. And it really looked like he was in a good rhythm. I know Brown had the turnover issues, but they knew how Dallas was guarding them, and they knew where to attack. And Holiday especially was able to get in a position where he could just hit layup after layup after layup. The problem with Porzingis out is the bigs can start to just hang out in the paint a little bit more. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's just the margin of error. Like, you just have to be a little bit crisper. He doesn't bail. He has to, he bailed him out a couple times offensively and defensively last game, I thought. And so you just have to be a little bit sharper. And like you said, they could be a lot sharper than they were in Game 2. Jaylen Brown had 6 turnovers. Tatum shot 6 for 22. So there is room for improvement across all fronts. Maybe Drew Holiday can play better than he played in Game 2. He was pretty exceptional.
But that's where I get confidence about their prospects tonight, is just looking down the roster and recognizing how much of an opportunity there is for individual guys to step up. Sam Hauser's been struggling. You know, we're not getting really anything from the bench. So I think they're going to be fine. But, you know, if he's limited and he's a liability, I hope they just pull him, because I'm a big believer that if you have a star out there that's struggling and having a hard time moving, that you're better off just going down the line, because especially someone like him, where we've seen him hobbled for stretches before he subs out of injuries, like, it doesn't look great. So we don't want to see that.
You think it'd be Cornet in that case who gets the call?
I think a few minutes of Cornet, more minutes for Al, maybe a little Tatum at the 5. Also, I think with Cornet, sometimes he has like right when he checks in, you can tell right away it's a Cornet game or it's not. Like, you can quickly tell whether he's in it, whether he's effective or he's not. And so maybe this is one of those nights where they check him in and he grabs 2 offensive rebounds and a putback and makes a great defensive play, and then you keep him in there for a while. Or he comes in and he just looks a little out of it, and then you go with your other options.
There were some good numbers for Tillman in this matchup during the regular season too, so you wonder if they go there, especially with wanting to switch 1 through 5. I think that fits in line with what they want to do, because that's what's allowed them to take away the corner threes. They're not helping at all. It's amazing watching some of these possessions where no one's moving defensively. They're just staying in their spots, having these guys stay right in front of Luka one-on-one. So that does point toward Tillman a little bit more than Cornet, maybe even a Brissett a little bit more than Tillman in that regard. So I do think you're going to see one of those guys for some amount tonight, whether Porzingis goes or not. Because, again, even if he plays, I just think you're going to see such a limited version of him here. He's so banged up at this point. I get putting it all on the line to win this championship, especially when you get a 3-0 lead by winning tonight. That's just about insurmountable. So the stakes are massive tonight, and you know Dallas is going to pour out everything to try win this and save their chances in this series. So you almost have to do the same if you're Boston. Like you said, it could be 40 minutes from all those starters. I know Tatum's been pushing into the 40s, above even 40 at this point, and Horford could get there now too. And so you lose this game tonight and it's a series again. I don't think there's any doubt about that,
absolutely.
especially if Porzingis is unable to go for whatever reason beyond tonight, whether he plays or doesn't in this one. So this is everything. I even talked to one of the Mavs writers who was like, I feel like whoever wins this game wins the series tonight.
Really? Who said that? Off the record?
I'll keep it to myself.
Okay.
We don't want another Max situation.
Sounds good.
Well, that's it for us here in our preview edition. Go to HelloFresh. We're still in Dallas, so we can't use our HelloFresh, but there'll be a box waiting for me when I get home. Pre-packaged ingredients, laid out instructions. It just makes cooking fun. You can get it to your dietary needs, your preferences. You can even pick the day of the week that it gets dropped off at your house. So what is HelloFresh? It's farm fresh ingredients, and they could be as fast as 15 minutes if you do the quick and easy recipes that they have over there. And right now they're giving you a free appetizer with every box you get for as long as you use HelloFresh. Just go to HelloFresh.com/GardenApps to get that right now. 1 appetizer per box for as long as you use it. That's HelloFresh.com/GardenApps. We got what do we got right now? 5:22, so just about 2 hours till game time here in Dallas. We'll have live coverage all night. We'll get word shortly, just about 20 minutes, whether Porzingis is going to go or not tonight. She's Noah Dalzell. I'm Bobby Manning. Let us know what you think of Boston's chances without Porzingis. He's going to be ruled out of this one below. And again, check us out post-game on the Celtics post-game show here at American Airlines Arena. John's on hand. Josue here as well. And Jimmy back in Boston, of course, helping us out on these shows. So we'll talk to you later tonight. And for Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. This has been a pregame edition of the Garden Report.